Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Wednesday, April 29th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. On today's show, we'll hear from Royals General Manager Dayton Moore. He held court with a group of reporters on Tuesday and spoke about several topics, starting with his positive vibes about getting back on the field. But first, you'll hear from Royals beat writer Lynn Worthy. We talk about Moore's comments and the challenges baseball faces in terms of roster size. So here we go with Lynn Worthy. Hey, Lynn, how you doing today?
Good.
Hey, we got to talk to Dayton Moore, or you did yesterday, along with some other reporters. And I guess the thing that struck me about the conversation was the optimism that Dayton expressed about baseball and playing again. And look, every day we're a day closer to having some kind of cure or resolution or being better. And but he seemed maybe more optimistic than what I'd been hearing. And look, he's talking to baseball and he's talking to people in the organization and throughout the game. So maybe he's maybe his optimism is well founded. What have you been hearing, and what did you think of what Dayton said about that yesterday?
Well, I mean, and I talked to somebody else without getting too far into details. Somebody else told me they feel like his optimism is with reason. Let's just put it that way. So I mean, we've been hearing all these different plans for months, and it seems like for months it's really been probably just a month now. But different plans on how they might be able to get this thing going. We've heard Dr. Anthony Fauci talk about you can start playing baseball if you do these certain things. The latest plan came out that was reported in USA Today yesterday about teams actually getting to play at their ballparks. And then on top of that, Dayton definitely seemed even more optimistic than just his normal. I mean, he's an optimistic guy anyway, and he's sort of, maintained that we'll play baseball, and I feel confident we'll play baseball since, the end of March. But this one sounded like he felt like it was getting closer. Like you could tell just from the way he was talking that he felt like there was an actual, light at the end of the tunnel, without specifics. But he sounded like he was optimistic about not just them playing games, but also maybe even seeing games in Kansas City. Even though he couldn't really get into what that might look like. I don't think he actually knows.
Yeah, that was maybe the eye opener for me, because we'd been sort of working under the impression that if baseball returns in the next, I don't know, month to 2 months, it would be at at spring training sites in Arizona and Florida. And then I saw a Texas site added to one of the possibilities. Maybe in those three states you'd have games without fans. And yesterday, or I should say Tuesday, for when you're listening to this, the notion was games in home cities. And one of the plans that you referred to was the 3 10-team divisions. Regardless of league, that the Royals would be involved with 3 10-team divisions, a Midwest division, so to speak. There'd be an East and a West to reduce traveling costs. So maybe I kind of was pretty excited when I saw that idea, that maybe that's the way to go, and you could play games in your home stadiums. You'd have to come up with some sort of plan for fans and social distancing in the stadiums. I mean, there's a ton of things that would have to be worked out for that to happen, but at least it's a plan that moves the game closer to the fans. And I think that's that was fun to hear.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the initial part of that, my guess would be that you're playing empty ballparks, but then maybe as we got further along, and then maybe as you get towards the end of the season, there's a possibility of maybe getting people in the ballparks, but spreading them out. But I mean, I guess and this may just be again my assumption that the first part of that would be empty stadiums, and then you'd end up being able to start moving towards getting some people in the park by the end of the season. But it would be it'd definitely be a lot different than what we'd heard about, where you'd be playing basically out of your complexes and spring training sites, or like you said, the idea of maybe there's like three little satellite groups, one in Arizona and Florida and Texas, or I think there was somebody talking about California getting in there. So I mean, but yeah, this would be different. I mean, it would be talking about playing in Kauffman Stadium, and then just in even that whole aspect of a different look to who you'd be playing against, because you'd have your division, which you wouldn't have had if you did the Arizona plan, or not the Arizona plan, but the spring training sites. You wouldn't really have your division because some of the teams are down there in Florida. This way, you'd still have the White Sox, Indians, Twins, and Tigers, but then you'd have a National League group, and there would be no National League, American League, it'd all be one. So you'd end up with the Cubs, Reds, Cardinals, which would give a little in-state rivalry flavor to that. The
Right.
Brewers, and then the Braves, which I'm not really sure how the Braves
Yeah.
got thrown
Right.
in there. I would have thought somebody like Texas or something would have been more geographical than that, but but still, those wouldn't be bad, teams to be. If those are the teams you're going to play regularly throughout this truncated season, that wouldn't, you'd have the division, and then you'd have, like I say, the in-state. You'd have some, big name clubs like the Cubs. Then you get, there's the ties with the Brewers, with the, some of the former Royals, and also just the organization obviously has ties with. That's where you got Ned Matheny was there before. I mean, Dale Swain was a manager there briefly after Ned. So I mean, and the Braves, I mean, that's where the foundation of the Royals front office came from. So yeah, I mean, and not to mention you got some young players, some talented young players in all those clubs. So it would be interesting just to think about that, what that would look like potentially, and just the idea of playing in those home ballparks again.
Right, and the idea, of course, to separate geographically like that is to reduce the travel time and travel cost and travel, fears, really. So you wouldn't see teams going cross country or the Royals going to either coast. They would be able to stay in, for the most part, in the central time zone, or just within an hour and a half flight of Kansas City. So interesting idea, and we'll stay tuned to see if this is the one. I'll tell you what, I when I saw it, I just said, yeah, this one makes sense. I can see this one happening. So we'll have to see. Hey, Lynn, so you wrote this story earlier. It's the idea of fast tracking the prospects under the the situation that we're in, and there's still so many unknowns, roster size, and I've seen different numbers for that, and when the season's going to start. But tell us about how the delayed season and the abbreviated season could impact the idea of bringing prospects to the major league club sooner than expected.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think on an earlier podcast, I think we talked about just the idea of, if you had one of these plans put in place, you'd need more than whatever the new 26-man roster. Like that wouldn't do it, because you'd have to have guys available. You'd have to have guys that you can add to the roster if it's injury, if it's virus, whatever. You're going to need more than that. And I think you'd have to be talking about 30, 40. I thought at least a 40-man roster. I think there was a report from the Athletic that talked about they were thinking or kicking around the idea of 50 players available on the roster. And whatever that looks like, you figure you have to have expanded rosters. There was talk of the schedule would be sort of, almost supersized, where you'd be playing even more often and maybe double headers every week. And with that, you need more pitching at least, but you need more players. And so you figure you're going to have more players on the roster. And now with the minor league season really in doubt, then it gives you even more reason to think, well, these guys like Singer, Kowar, Buvich, and Lynch weren't going to make the club out of spring training in all likelihood, and they were going to still give him time in the minors. Well, now there's likely, no minors, and you need more guys on the roster. It seems, like it would point towards these guys would be options for the major league club with an expanded roster. And I asked Dayton about it, and he didn't say no. He said, I mean, basically, he gave it's something they'd have to think about. Of course, I'm sure they are thinking about it, but we don't know what the roster is going to look like yet. We don't know what the situation with the minors is yet. So there's no point in him saying, yeah, we do that. But I think I know it's something that they would consider. And they also know that you might not have a year in the minors for some of these guys. So if you don't put them in that venue to be able to compete, then you might just have them basically end up with a lost year, which I don't know if you really want to afford, or you can afford that for some of your top pitching prospects and the guys you're hoping to build around going forward.
Sure. Hey, another guy you caught up with recently was Bubba Starling, and he was on a conference call with some reporters, and he seemed bored.
Yeah.
Not on the conference call, but just day to day life.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a guy who just wants to get out there and play some ball, it's Bubba. And the more I thought about it was, to think about how long it took for him to finally get to the point where he got to the big leagues. And it had to feel like dog years, too, because everybody was watching and just waiting for him to get there. And I think Dayton last year, when Bubba finally got called up, said it was the most asked question he'd got in his whole time as the GM of the Royals. I mean, this guy, in case we forget, he'd been there for, over a decade now, and also managed a couple World Series teams. But the most asked question was about Bubba and when he's going to get to the big leagues. And so it had to be, even more intense than just the path that he took. I mean, just because he did it in his own backyard, and he was such a phenom coming out of high school and such a high draft pick. And so he finally gets there last year, and he's the first to say his numbers weren't what he wanted them to be. He only played 56 games, if I remember the number right, and was hitting like 210, 215. But he did hit well in the minors this past year. There's people, I talked to a scout who thought that there was still some upside with him because he'd missed so much time, even though remember if he's 26 now, 27, I have to look it up, but it felt like there's more upside with him than you might expect for a guy that age. And so to be sitting here after last year, he had a good spring, he had a good season in the minor leagues, he got up to the big leagues and sort of got the feel of it. He was having a really good spring this year, and now it's just like more waiting. Like I don't know how much more waiting Bubba can take.
Right. So, all right. Hey, Lynn, when we come back, we're going to hear from Dayton Moore, the conversation that he had with Kansas City reporters and those who cover the Royals. So interesting stuff, very optimistic. And Lynn, hey, thanks for hanging out with us.
No problem. Anytime.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening.
I think we're getting closer. I'm more hopeful today than I was yesterday, and I was pretty hopeful yesterday. So I think we're really getting close to coming up with a plan that we can all rally behind and focus on. But again, that has not been settled at this point in time.
I know MLB doesn't want you to say a whole lot about what it's going to take to restart, but as an organization, what would it take in your mind to try one of these plans? I mean, whether it's testing or whatever it is.
Flan, I'm not sure MLB they're not really cautioning us on to keep, our cards close to the vest, so to speak. I mean, they're really not. I think everybody's just trying to manage through, the right time, what makes sense, what is not only from a health standpoint, but from a psychological standpoint where people feel comfortable. As we all know, each community is different. I seem to think, and I've shared this publicly, I've shared this with people in the commissioner's office, there's no doubt in my mind the people of the Midwest, the citizens of the Midwest, are going to come back and they're going to support baseball. They're going to go to games once the gathering restrictions have been lifted. We're very resilient people. We care deeply about the success of one another. And so I'm confident that when that time comes, we'll all rally behind our teams and we'll support one another. That's what we've always done. There's no reason for me to think that anything else is going to happen. But, as far as testing and those types of things, Flanny, I mean, whatever they tell us we need to do, we'll do. And speaking to our players and speaking to our staff, we're going to do what is necessary to get back and playing baseball. We realize that there's risk in everything that you do, and we will trust the individuals that have evaluated that. And then once it's time to begin working out, preparing for the season, we'll go to work. We're not going to be disadvantaged mentally. We're not going to be wondering what if. We're not going to be expecting bad things to happen. We're going to move forward in a very positive way. We're going to focus on baseball and doing what we do and being smart about it. But we'll be ready to go.
Hey, and one last one, Dayton, on the same line. How much in contact are you with Mayor Lucas, who was one of the first mayors, obviously, to do the shutdown, and how much does that affect what the Royals do going forward?
I've texted with Mayor Lucas a couple times. I've not spoken with him. I believe Mr. Sherman is probably has conversations from time to time. I think Kevin Ulick is on some type of task force. But I look at my role simply as this. I like to encourage leaders. I like to support leaders. I like leaders to know that we've got their back, so to speak. We understand that all these decisions are very difficult. And, we're here if anybody wants to discuss anything or talk through an event or a circumstance or a relationship. But at the end of the day, you just kind of trust in where we are and just manage it from there.
Excellent. Thanks, Dayton.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Dayton, this is Mick. I had a question. How much did you pay attention to the NFL draft and their success? Did it encourage you doing it that way, that baseball could do it a similar way and do it on time and do it with as many rounds as possible?
It's interesting. I saw parts of it, Mick. I can't say that I was, paying attention to every detail. I know that it was a tremendous success, and I'm not sure how we'll operate our draft. Lonnie Goldberg and I have talked about, what our procedures would be. Right now, the draft is scheduled for June 10th. Until somebody tells us differently, we're preparing for June 10th. Lonnie Goldberg and our staff are having multiple calls each and every day, going through an interview process with many a player. And we talk daily about those interviews. Of course, we've had not a ton of time to evaluate the players, but, we are where we are. We're not going to make excuses for it. We can watch video. It's not the same. But fortunately, we have a history with a lot of the players in the 2020 draft. So, we, as you know, traditionally do our draft via conference call. That's the way we've always done it. And so if we have to operate that way, whether it be in our homes or in the draft room, which I suspect we'll be able to do it in the draft room, if indeed it's June 10th, unless something unforeseen happens. I don't anticipate us not being able to do it in our draft room the way we normally conduct business.
Dayton, this is Cody. Do you have any feelings one way or the other about the possible reduction of minor league teams? They've talked a lot about the possibility of that, especially even before leading up to this, but now, especially now, that seems like it's been a topic of conversation. I know less draft picks means maybe harder to fill, but where do you guys stand as an organization about that possibility?
Cody, we haven't had a ton of discussion of that lately. That was obviously a very hot topic leading into this shutdown. I think you know where we stand. We like there's a lot of opportunity to sign and develop players because we believe in players. We believe in giving players opportunity. We do realize, however, that Major League Baseball is certainly has changed from an economic standpoint, and we may have to make some necessary reductions. I don't know for certain, but we'll be prepared to do whatever we need to do. and going forward. So, but there hasn't been a ton of discussions about that, Cody. And right now we're scheduled to possibly have at least a minimum of 5 rounds in this draft. That's been well publicized. That's what's been discussed with the Players Association, and whether we end up doing 5 or more, we'll see. But again, we'll accept whatever rules are in place at this point in time, and we'll operate accordingly.
As far as the prospects that maybe you had hope would come up at some point this year, we know that a major league season, maybe you're more optimistic about that, but a minor league season seems even further off at this point. Would you be more inclined to maybe push those guys up sooner or give them a chance sooner? If there was, no minor league season, guys like Brady and others.
Well, we could. I mean, it's certainly something we have to discuss. I mean, our focus right now is putting together the best 26 players that give us a chance to compete and win. And again, I don't know how many games we'll ultimately have in our season. But we would address that at the appropriate time. But Cody, I mean, to take your question a step further, it's never good when young players are missing time. It's never good when any players are missing time. I mean, it's a game that requires the execution of multiple skills, and they have to be refined. Repetition is really, really important, and you don't want to see any player miss out on those repetitions. So there's definitely a feel aspect of playing this game, and so it's something that we're not going to probably be able to recoup. But again, we are where we are. There are no excuses, and the important thing is talent doesn't regress very quickly. And those players or pitchers that you're alluding to, not by name, but alluding to as that group, they're very talented. Their talent's not going to go away at this point in time in their careers. And trust me when I tell you that they're all doing stuff every single day to stay on top of their game the best they can. Mentally, they're very strong and they're very creative, with their workouts. And, they're doing a really good job. Our staff is doing an amazing job as they continue to work with them and communicate with them, whether it be through Zoom or webinars. They are in constant contact, and I'm very confident that our players are in a good spot right now.
Hey Dayton, it's Todd Lebo. How you doing, first of all?
Good, Todd. How you doing, man?
We're getting by. What's this been like for you emotionally over the past 6 weeks or so, when everything started kind of coming out that the things were going to be different, and it seemed to change quite a bit? Now you've kind of been in this little mode. What's it just been like for you with the anticipation of a new season, new ownership, new manager, all that stuff, to kind of deal with that, and knowing that this is just probably bigger than baseball right now?
Well, yeah. I mean, in fact, Austin Driggers, who's our director of performance science, he sent me a note yesterday. It was a speech written in 1939, and it talked about, the enemies of human beings. And I have felt all of these emotions that I'm about to describe. It talked about excitement, trying to push too fast, too much in a hurry. It talked about frustration and how you have to guard yourself against frustration. I've certainly felt frustration during this time. And then it talked about being fearful. And, I've been fearful. I've been fearful for people, not only in our community, but around the country, family members that have lost jobs, our own staff members who are concerned about the economics of the game and what it means for their future. And so I've felt all those emotions. But at the end of the day, Todd, and I know the importance of we've got to stay steady. We've got to be unemotional about this. We've got to be positive. We're fortunate that Mr. Sherman has been amazing in the entire process with his support. I've felt no panic, or since no panic in our discussions, and we have them quite regularly. And so, we've drawn closer together as a staff. Already a very close staff, but even we've grown closer. Mike Matheny has been amazing. I haven't heard Mike Matheny complain one bit. I've tried to get him to complain. He won't complain. And so from that part, it's been really good. But I felt all those emotions. I appreciate the question.
Hey, Dayton, this is Vahe. Can you hear me okay?
I can, Vahe.
First of all, good to see your face. And second of all, just sort of to pick up where Todd left off, or where Todd started, I wonder how that's those feelings you've had, how you've tried to treat them, and just anything in particular you're doing day to day just to keep your own positivity going. And along with all that too, I just wonder if you're seeing the world any differently. I know it's a kind of lofty question, but I know it's the stuff you think about.
Well, I appreciate it, Vahe. One of the things that's kept me going through this is all of our people. I mean, I look at the great work that JJ Piccolo is doing every single day. Ryan Maid, Matt Morosco sent out another One Royal Way newsletter today, and it's got inspirational messages on there and things that are happening in our organization that are positive. Erica Sharp has done some things on the importance of nutrition during this time, and Austin Driggers has talked about the importance of sleep. And so what we've tried to do is utilize the expertise of our entire staff in all the different areas and share those expertise with our staff on a more personal level so they could share them with their family. And again, utilize all those expertise to get all of our people through this very challenging and uncertain and time. So, but I haven't really had time to reflect back on how we possibly viewing the situation going forward, Vahe, other than doing everything we can to make sure that we're ready to come back and play baseball at the appropriate time. I have reflected back. In fact, I was on a podcast today, and I was asked the following question. I was asked the question, if there was anybody you could go back in time and have dinner with, who would it be? And we've all been asked those questions before. We've all thought about those questions before. And for some reason today, I was thinking about Abraham Lincoln and about when he made the comment during the Civil War, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And talked about the importance of obviously unity. And I could only imagine what he was feeling and our country was feeling during that time of division. And so it's reminded me of the importance of doing everything I can to be positive, having like-minded people around that are positive and encouragers and expect good things to happen. And so I've tried to be that person, but I haven't been perfect during this 6-week journey. And I've relied on other people to speak positivity in my life and remind me the importance of staying positive and thinking into the future. And as I said before, it's helped that Mr. Sherman has been rock solid in this and his support, and the fact that we have a very tight-knit group that has been together for a long time. And I've had the joy of watching them lead. I mean, John Weigel, Dr. Weigel, who works in our performance science department, sent me a webinar today of talking about some of the things that they're doing with the players and educating our staff. And so our people have kept me going, and hopefully I've tried to do the same thing. So
thanks, Dayton.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Dayton, it's Lynn. How you doing?
Hey, Lynn, what's up, man?
I wanted to ask you, you talked about sort of the community support that you feel in this area. I wondered, for you, the idea, and I know there's not a set plan, but the idea of, if you guys played baseball this year but weren't able to play in Kansas City, what sort of impact that might have on the organization, but also outside the organization?
It's hard to imagine, really. And again, I've read those scenarios, and Lynn, I think the important thing to understand for everybody on this call, those are just ideas that everybody's discussing, and it's good to come up with ideas. As we all know, it's good to brainstorm and think out loud and share ideas with people. And so, but it's hard to imagine us not playing baseball in front of our fans here at Kauffman Stadium, or at least playing in our city. Again, we'll do whatever we need to do for the good of the game. But it's hard to imagine. And I suspect that most people feel that way. But again, we'll do what we need to do. But, let's face it. I mean, our part of the country, it hasn't been hit as tough as some others. And again, I go back to the psychology and the mental toughness of the individuals and the citizens of the Midwest. And I believe that our people are tough enough to push through this in a very smart, healthy, I would say, measured way when the time is right.
Dayton, it's Cody again. Do you have a personal preference for one of the plans that's been out there? Have you even given that thought, or are you just like, I'll just whatever they say we should do, we'll do?
Well, whatever they say, we'll do. I mean, that goes without saying. But Cody, personally, I want to be here in Kansas City. I want to be here with our fans, and I just know how important this environment is for the health of our players and the health of our players' families, and the health of our front office and their families. And so, to think that we might, again, we'll do whatever we need to do. I mean, it's in the scheme of things, it's not that, I'm not going to disadvantage ourselves mentally by thinking of this in a negative way. We will do what we need to do.
Dayton, Rob Collins at Fox 4. If y'all played without fans, can you talk about the emotional void, not only for the players, but for the fans not being able to be at the K or at any other stadium?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. That's a good question. I haven't put myself there mentally at all, but I think that, again, I know how much strength all players draw from the fans and the environment. And, you need that support to get through an entire Major League Baseball season. It's very difficult to do so. The only thing that I can compare it to is, in the Gulf Coast League and the Arizona Rookie League, it's complex baseball. The Dominican Summer League, it's complex baseball. Not a lot of fans, if any, in the stands. And, the players, they still go out there. They still have the ability to concentrate and focus. They're challenged by the competition. So I suspect that, once the umpire says play ball in those environments, the players will be, they'll play with emotion. They'll play with the love of the game. They'll play with passion, energy. They have a lot of professional pride, but it certainly wouldn't be the same. But if we can begin to play without fans, that's great. Our fans can watch the game on TV. I know our players will go out there and do whatever's necessary as long as they get to play baseball.
Hey, Dayton, it's Todd Lebo again. I was just curious, how long have you been home, and how long has it been in your lifetime since you've been home for as long as you've been home now without traveling?
Well, I've never seen a march in Kansas City. It's beautiful. The weather's a little inconsistent, as we all know. But I've enjoyed, probably like you, Todd, and everybody on this call, I've enjoyed the opportunity to spend more time with our family. We've had more meals together probably than any other time, maybe in the last couple of years. That's a sad statement to make, but we've been able to spend more time together, and I think there's been a lot of positives, truthfully. And I've realized that in probably a very healthy way, I can survive a little bit without baseball, as much as I love the game. So I ask me a personal question. So if I ask myself, and Swanee's probably thought about this too. If I wasn't involved in baseball, now I want to be able to watch baseball every single day. I can tell you that. But if I wasn't working in baseball, what else would I do? You know what? It's okay. It's been kind of a glimpse of what it might be like. And I've talked to Ned a couple times, and Ned's enjoying the heck out. He feels bad for all of us, and but Ned's really enjoyed kind of the retirement aspect. I'm not thinking about retiring. That's not where I'm going with this. But there's been some positives. We have slowed down a little bit. Although the days go fast, I wake up, I'm on the phone, and it just keeps going. But I can tell you this without a doubt: the relationships within our organization, outside the organization, and with my family are better than they were a month ago, and so that's a positive.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Savannah Smith, Randy Mason, Beth Welsh, Jeff Rosen, and Chris Fickett. Links to the stories we discussed can be found in the show notes. There are 4 of them in there today. Hey, earlier in the episode, you heard me talk about the Sports Pass offer. It still stands, and it's a good one, $30 for a year's worth of sports coverage. But here's an even better offer. Buy the entire Kansas City Star. Sports, news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole bit. You get all the stories written by my uber-talented colleagues. The details can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. That's account.kansascity.com/subscribe. In either case, the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're supporting local journalism and helping us deliver products like SportsBeat KC, which, by the way, will be back on Thursday because this is where we talk sports in Kansas City every day.